Alright, the first of a few projects I'm going to be doing on the new to me 2012 Raptor is addressing the headlights. The 2010, 2011, 2012 Raptors had these blacked out halogen headlights, and while they might have been kind of a cool upgrade for like a regular F150, my old FX4 F150 had the HID projector headlights, which are way nicer than these. It's a shame that this Raptor didn't have them, but the later years got them. So instead of putting in the OEM projector headlights, which you can find relatively inexpensive on eBay now, and it's really easy to do a relay harness to make those work, as long as you get the headlights with the ballasts and the bulbs included. If you had to piece it all together, it'd be kind of cost prohibitive. But I'm going a different route. I'm going to go with the Spyder projecting headlights, and I'm going to modify them to make them HIDs. They come with an H7 halogen bulb, and I have a way to make that work just as good as factory HID. I'll get to that in a minute. Yeah, so the first step is to amass your parts list, and everything's kind of just piled right here, but we'll need this is just a generic HID universal relay harness. So it has basically your power input and an output for each ballast, your main battery connection, etc. So yeah, use that for power. Also received from the retrofit source a set of H7 Morimoto bulbs, and I've learned the hard way with HID that you definitely get what you pay for, especially if you're doing this kind of like aftermarket conversion. If you buy the $29 kit on eBay or from Amazon, you're going to get garbage. You're going to have flickering, the bulbs are not going to last long. You get what you pay for. So I've never had any problems with Morimoto parts from the retrofit force. Yes, they're more expensive. These bulbs alone are $40 plus shipping, but they are highly worth it. So I went with the H7 6500s because if you kind of like I like the factory look, but just that hint of blue. When you use a good ballast, it makes it brighter and it loses some of that blue. So I go with the 6500s, and once you put a good ballast on there, it makes it look really good. All right, so included with those, they give you a little harness. It has like a rubber grommet that fits through the boot, and you have to kind of like drill a hole in your headlight to make this work, which I'll show you how to do that. For my ballast, Morimoto makes good ballasts also, but I found them to be a little noisy on the electrical system in cars. I put some isolators on my Honda, which helped, but didn't completely eliminate the problem. The way to really have a good situation is to use some old school Toyota, these are also known as Denso slim ballast. This is just the cover, obviously off one of them, but it gives you the part number here. And it has a D2R or D2S connection, but you can get an adapter cable or just change the wire yourself. But these are OEM parts, and they're excellent. They have very good output. They're AC ballasts, 35 watts. You don't need all the 55 watt stuff like you see aftermarket. A good OEM 35 watt ballast is plenty for what we're trying to do here. Okay, so I guess that leads me to the next thing I did. The problem with OEM ballasts is they are not waterproof. They're kind of meant to be mounted inside of the headlight housing. So to make this work, you need to waterproof the ballast. So that was my next step. So went on Amazon and ordered MG Chemicals thermally conductive potting compound. It's an epoxy, and you mix it 50% of each, and they give you these little cups to mix it. And then you're supposed to let it sit for 30 minutes to let all the air bubbles get out. I did not have a problem with air bubbles, and I did not do that step. So you mix it up. Definitely want to wear gloves when you do this to keep it off your hands. It's kind of nasty stuff. It's kind of hard to get off. So wear gloves. And then you simply, there's videos out there online about this. I didn't really video me doing this, but you just pour this stuff. Once you get that metal shield off your ballast, you pour this stuff inside the ballast. And it's basically the consistency of like cake batter or pudding batter, and it self-levels and fills in all the electronic areas in the ballast. And they say to let it sit for like 4 to 6 days, but another way in the instructions is 149 degrees for 90 minutes. Basically, or 2 hours to basically harden up the epoxy once it's mixed. And my oven only goes to 170 degrees, so I'm doing it at 170 degrees for about an hour and a half, and that's going on right now. So here they are. You'll see what I mean, how it levels. Here they are in the oven. They're actually got about 28 minutes left, but the stuff's hardened up. I had to go back and fill in one little spot over here, mix up a little bit more and put it in there. But a little bit of it bubbled over, so I'll just have to like pull that off when I'm done. But it's only 170 degrees. It's safe to put the wiring in here. Like I said, the epoxy kind of self-levels, and it will make these waterproof and ready to be used for a project. Here's one of those adapters, like I was talking about. It hooks into a D2S and then makes it so it can be plugged into a regular HID bulb. Probably the most important part is your headlights. Like the Spyder brand one, and these are the latest ones. You've probably seen these around if you look. But they're very, very nice. They look like OEM quality lights. On the back here, you have your connections. This is your turn signal connection, which it retains a halogen turn signal bulb, but it is not, for some reason, it's not the same as the factory one, which I guess that'll only be a problem when it burns out. And then here's a little probably inverter, and that's what controls the C-shaped LED light inside. Probably comes on with your parking lights. The other connection is the headlight connection, and this uses a mechanical shield, just like the OEM HID headlights, to lift when you flash your high beams or when you turn on your high beams. Yeah, so here's your wiring. It comes in, connects to an H7 bulb. I've already taken out the regular H7 and installed the Morimoto H7 bulb into the projector. I'll have to do a little bit more customization to get those wires through here, but like I showed, they include the little grommet. So basically you could drill a hole here, you could try to put another hole in this, which is what I probably will end up doing, and then just putting that grommet into here. Just a little more about how this works. It's actually very simple. These two diodes right here allow electricity to only flow one way. So basically what that does is, on a halogen bulb, when you turn on your bright lights, the low beams turn off. What the diodes essentially do is make it so when you turn on your high beams, the low beam stays on, which keeps the projector bulb running and lets the shutter lift up the mechanical shutter. And these little wires in here are for the mechanical shutter. Alright, so that's enough about how it works. And the last connection over here, this is just a little cover. You would use your OEM side marker to put on there, which is a good thing because some of the aftermarket headlights use an LED one that tends to not work very well and flicker. So, yep. These should look very, very nice when installed. So here they are out of the oven. Everything's dry. It's like hard. And we're ready to put the covers back on. These were removed from this area before, and they will not be needed. They won't fit back in there anyway, but they won't be needed since this epoxy is covering everything. Alright, so now I'm going to reinstall these covers over here. They snap in. If, like on this one, if the epoxy is run down in the sides, these tabs are not going to fit down there anymore, so I'm going to trim off the tabs. I have a little bit of the epoxy mixed up here that I can kind of use as a glue. I'll put on the back of here and stick it down to kind of hold it in place, and once it dries, these will basically be permanently sealed. It's not like I can ever get in there and change anything with electronics now anyway. So, should do the job. I'll be right back once I've got these snapped into place here. Alright, got the covers back on. I had to trim off some of these tabs, like I said, to get it to fit down on there. But put the screws back in, and now the ballasts are done and ready to be rigged up for my project here. Hopefully for many years of being water resistant. Alright, you're about to begin work removing the stock headlights from the front of the Raptor. For this, you need a 10mm socket and like a Phillips head screwdriver. I'm going to use my little 1/4" impact. Also made a couple marks on the back wall of the garage where the stock headlights are. You use some tape for that. Leveled the front end of the truck just to give me an idea where to start when I go to aim the new headlights. So the first thing we'll do is need to take out, as you can see here, take out these little push screws, and what they do is they start to unscrew and they'll come out. And there's one at the top, and that'll be the only thing holding it to the headlight, and then this will swivel out of the way. And then there's two 10mm right here and right here, bolts that need to come out of the top, and then there's one behind here. I'll show you in a second. Same thing on both sides. Headlight pulls out. We'll get right to that. Right, now I got the rubber pieces moved out of the way. Go ahead and take out the 3 10mm bolts. And then there's another one right down here. Set them aside. And then on my truck, this was, before I owned it, it was owned by a company, and they had these little flasher LED lights in here. So I'm going to go ahead and undo this little harness first. These obviously will not be used in the new headlights. And then might just have to kind of work it loose. Just quick, firm pressure. Be sure not to scratch anything. It'll come out. There's these little metal tabs that it kind of clips into. Headlight, just disconnect the socket. You just push down on the little tab and pull. This one we're going to want to turn out of place because we're going to reuse this in the new headlight. Now would be a good time to change that bulb. And the turn signal, we will go ahead and just disconnect the socket. Same thing. Push on this little tab and pull. Alright, now we've got all the wiring out of the way, and this headlight is free. And now we're ready to go to the other side, which will be the exact same thing. Alright, both lights are out. Same thing on this side as just on the other side. I'm going to go ahead and replace these marker bulbs. They're 194 bulbs. And after I get those replaced, we'll be ready to start wiring up the new lights. First thing I'm going to do is get the universal wiring harness kind of laid out the way it'll have to be. I might have to add some wire to it, depending on if it's long enough, since the front end of this truck's so wide. And then I got to find a place to mount the ballast behind here before I put the new lights in. And there's plenty of room, so probably you got to be careful. You don't want to drill through your battery tray and into the battery. So I'll have to find some place, maybe on the frame right here, to mount the ballast. Try to keep it up out where it's not going to get splashed, even though we waterproofed it. Maybe even up under here somewhere. And then on this side, same thing. Have to figure out a spot to put it, either right in here or up under here. I'll use some self-tapping sheet metal screws for that. Alright, so I've got the wiring harness kind of laid out. This is the universal relay harness. The one you have might be a little different. I've got it so this lug is going to come off of the battery junction box here. There's an input from the factory headlights. There's actually two of them on this one for each side, but you only need one of them. Most of these relay kits only have one input, and then you would tape the other one off. So this one is going to be taped off because I needed the longer one to reach down into here. So this will be the input that comes from the headlights into the relay harness. You can see I've got the ballast mounted to the, I guess you'd call it the frame rail up on the front of the truck here. And this will be here. This will go to the headlight. This will be the input from the relay harness, which is right here. And obviously this will have to be grounded. I'll just ground it to the frame. You do have to have some, I would recommend definitely having a little bit of basic wiring knowledge, you know, when you're hooking this up. I'm just going over this quickly. But that's where I'm going to put the ballast on this side. And if this wasn't waterproof, definitely would not want to put it here. I mean, it's definitely subject to being splashed. This is the inner wheel well right here. So it's not going to get a direct hit from water, but you know, it's going to get moisture and kind of wet under here. So that should be more than able to withstand that now. And over here on this side, I'm going to mount the other one probably like right in here. I'll see here in a second. All right, I've got the ballast mounted on the driver's side right here. Here's how that looks. Got the ground lug screwed in, got the harness connected. It runs up over here. Same thing, ballast is connected over here. The ground lug connected in there. All right, now to modify the headlight, you take the back of the Spyder headlight out with a little rubber cover on the back. And like I said, this little piece here is from the Morimoto kit. And you make a 1-inch round hole. You can either make it in this rubber piece or on the plastic itself. I chose to do it on the rubber piece. And then you push it through and it seals. It's like rubber on rubber. See? And that lets the wires for the HID lights come through. And then on the inside, where this would normally right here connect to the halogen H7 bulb, it's going to be connected to this orange and black wire on the Morimoto kit. The orange goes to the blue and the black goes to the black. That sends power back out on this wire, and this will be plugged into the relay harness. So when you turn on the low beams on your headlights, it sends power to the relay harness, which energizes the ballast. Once it comes back, the AC, you know, the high voltage that goes to the HID bulb itself comes over these wires, goes in, and this plugs into the bulb, the HID bulb. Hopefully that makes some sense. You do this on both sides, but this wire will only be used on the passenger side in this case. So this will just hang there and won't be used on the other side. So you won't need to make this connection on the inside. All we will do on that side is this will be energized, so we will tape it over and let it just set inside the housing on the driver's side. Alright, so over here on the passenger side, we're ready to start making some connections over here at the light. So, in here, this long line that I said goes to the relay harness, remember that gets connected to this orange and black wire coming out of the back of the light. Then I will go ahead and connect the high voltage line going into the HID light. Alright. Once again, our ballast was already connected to the output of the relay harness right there, so that's all taken care of. I'm going to bundle this up and tape it up out of the way, that way it doesn't hang out. Now we make our connections to our OEM harness and lights. So, factory harness, take this bulb for the marker light, pull off protective cover, and this gets twisted in here. Alright, and then your turn signal harness gets connected, where'd it go? Oh, down here to this one, and plug your headlight harness into this one. Now once you get all your wires neatly tucked in, we're going to carefully work the headlight in. Try to get the tabs lined up. Alright, that's good on that side. A moderate amount of force, apparently. Make sure you get your tabs lined up just right. Alright. So, not the best fit I've ever seen in my life. That's for sure. But we'll make it work. I see the thing that might be annoying about this is to adjust the headlight. It's going to have to come out, it looks like, which I've read in other reviews, because there's no way you're going to reach those adjusters from behind here, I don't think. I'm trying to see if I can feel them. Not really. So I guess we'll just have to see. Alright, so now on this side, it's the same thing, except like I said, this is your only connection right here. Your, well, not your only connection. You need to connect all these wires. But you won't have the input to the relay harness on this side. We'll just tape up those wires. Alright, I've got that side pushed in. Take a step back. Admire how awesome these are going to look. Alright, now all I gotta do is make some final wiring connections. I'm gonna wait and cut off this extra connector here in a minute. Try to make sure everything works. I'm gonna make this connection right here. And we should be ready to go. Alright, so I made that electrical connection there just by setting it on there and adding another nut. Let's come around here, flip on the lights, see what we got. That's a good sign. Alright, well that's a good sign. We have lights. Honestly, they don't look too bad where they're at. Okay. Let's go ahead and flash the brights. Put it on parking lights, and then we'll turn on the hazard, see how that looks. Get an idea what it looks like with just the white LEDs. All right. That looks really good. Go ahead and get everything tightened down, see where we're at with our aim here. Because honestly, my initial estimate is it's pretty much right where it needs to be. Wouldn't that be a nice surprise? Alright, so now I'm just getting everything buttoned up here. Got my 10mm bolts back in here. Go ahead and, this is assuming you've got it aimed correctly. Go ahead and put everything back together. So as far as wiring goes, here's the finished product. See, it comes out of there. Everything's kind of zip tied out of the way. There's your relay. Try to keep it up off the radiator, that way it doesn't expose it to unnecessary heat, which will just make it die quicker. And I'm going to pull that fuse up and zip tie it up out of the way a little bit. Then this wire is secure over here. Put one more zip tie around this loom and we'll be ready to button it up. Alright, so there's the finished product. I think it looks pretty badass, personally. Best part is it works great. And the cutoff on these projectors is just as good as the factory Ford projectors. I mean, I understand that these technically are halogen projectors, but it looks just as good to me. There's a nice sharp line. It's almost like they designed these knowing that you're going to switch out the bulb, but they can't legally do that or something. But anyway, with that disclaimer, this is for off-road use only. And hopefully this video helps you out if you're going to do the same thing to your F150 or your Raptor. It's the exact same thing for either one. Thanks for watching.